I mean, speaking to his sort of at least popularity among some people, I know several of my English viewers will be familiar with the story of him burning the cakes.
Hmm.
I was never taught that story, but when you Google it, you do
I was.
find
Yeah, yeah.
all these sort of blogs and stuff. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Did he do it? Did he burn the cakes?
I don't know. Yeah, this sort of early version of MasterChef where he gets eliminated very early on. Bad. I think probably not. I don't think he burnt the cakes, but it's very interesting that there was a story in popular culture um, circulating about Alfred in the late 10th century when this story seems to be first documentable. It's a complicated relationship between saints' lives of or legends of St. Cuthbert and St. Neot. But I won't go into the detail around that. But it's in the life of St. Neot, which may be a 12th century composition, that we have this story of Alfred burning the cakes. The moment Alfred burned his cakes is with this Viking attack, this sudden Viking attack, 6th of January, 878. The Vikings who have agreed peace with the king, they attack when everybody's just finishing off their Christmas festivities. So it's the 12th night. And they almost overrun the kingdom. In fact, they overrun the kingdom, and Alfred has to go into hiding. The Chronicle reports, and Asser agrees, that many people went overseas, as refugees down to France. It's a paradoxical inversion of what's happening now. And so Alfred goes into the Somerset levels, and this is where this mythological moment emerges of sort of the hidden Alfred who's been reduced from kingship to being an exile, a refugee within his own kingdom. And he's all alone in the story. In the historical records, he's never all alone. We're told he's with a small troop of followers, a band who's big enough to build a fortification for him on the Isle of Athelney. In the life of St. Cuthbert, I think it's 3 years he spends in this wandering exile in the Somerset levels. Historically, no, it was a few months. He retakes the kingdom by sort of late May, June. So roughly 6 months. But it becomes 3 years, and St. Neots doesn't report how long. So that's the context, the moment of Alfred's actual historical life when these sorts of stories emerge. Now, it's the fact that it's in the life of St. Neot is significant. So St. Neot, um, this legend, he appears to Alfred before Alfred loses his kingdom, and he says, "You've been a bad king. You've broken the laws. You're going to be punished you're going to lose your kingdom, and then, if you in your hour of worst need you remember and pray to me, you'll get it back." And so Alfred doesn't pay any attention to this, loses his kingdom. This is not the historical Alfred, I don't think. So already the framing of it tells us we're not dealing with the same person. So off he goes into the marshes, into the levels, and all alone, hungry. And he comes to this cottage, and the cottage is very interestingly, it's a swineherd and his wife. Now we've heard about a swineherd already. There's a swineherd in the story of King Ælfred Cunard. So swineherd's stock figure in the story of an exiled king. Great. So stock figures also problematic. And he's set to look after the cakes, which meditatively in many sort of Victorian paintings, he's just looking up in the sky and thinking about the return of his kingdom. And he forgets, he doesn't pay attention. She comes and she scolds him for burning the cakes. Now, there's so many different ways of reading that. It's funny. It's actually funny that the king is scolded by the swineherd's wife. And but there's also the king thinking about returning to his kingdom. And so the cakes become unimportant. They become symbolic in certain ways. Uh, but did it happen? Probably not. Was Alfred important enough in the popular imagination? Now, the popular imagination, imagine having access to that in the 10th century in England. He's important enough in historical memory amongst the common people that there are legends about him. This is extraordinary. So the importance is not that whether or not he burnt the cakes, but that people who weren't of the royal family and chronicle writers and official keepers of memory had their own memories of Alfred, where they reduced him down to a popular figure who encountered the normal people of his kingdom. And that's very interesting, I think. So did he burn his cakes? Probably not. But that's really not the important thing. The important thing is that he entered popular memory.
Right, and
Uh,
he's sort of used as this moralizing now figure in almost as if like it's a fairy tale or a kid's story where his reaction to being scolded is to be like, wow, this is humility from God. I should just accept this and take it and move on with my life as this is my punishment from God. He doesn't
and
scold
it's
her.
in
He
a
doesn't.
saint's life.
Yeah,
It's in a
yeah.
saint's life, and this is what St. Neot, who's a very important saint, not really, but becomes one, is teaching him. He's teaching him humility, and so at this nadir of his life, he achieves what St. Neot has sent him into exile to do, which is that he can come back and be a humble man, and then he will get his kingdom. I mean, a part of the discussion around Alfred is whether or not he should be canonized as a saint. The last serious effort was, I think, Henry VI assembled a documentary case to send to Rome in the late 15th century for the canonization of Alfred. The Reformation got in the way, and so it never happened. Um, but yeah, so it's Alfred, his own sort of saintly character is hinted at there. I think the story of St. Neot was in that dossier. The dossier has been published in modern times by Ronald Knox, who edited it. You might have heard of Ronald Knox, Monsignor Knox, very important 20th century Catholic figure. But yeah, so Alfred wasn't canonized, but that's the context within which we find the cakes. And so it tells us some multiple things about him. Yeah.
Did he learn Latin instantaneously with divine intervention?
There's another miracle. Yeah. It's very difficult to know what Asa is talking about for a start. Um, and because of the vocabulary he uses. Is he saying that he suddenly got Latin or that he suddenly learnt Latin? I I would lean much more to the former, that he sort of got it. He's not getting it in the way a scholar does. He's not doing that. We're told by Asa that he was very devout, and I don't think there's any reason to doubt that. Modern readers often prefer to overlook the fact that a medieval king might have been devout. Um, though the chroniclers, that second chronicler certainly embeds the idea of divine destiny, as does Asa. So the idea of him being divinely chosen is available at court, at Alfred's court. So the idea that he's devout shouldn't surprise anybody. Um, I forget where we were going with that question. What was it about?
About his learning of instantaneous Latin.
That's right. Yeah. So if he's devout, he would be attending to the hours and to the mass and to the liturgy. Um, so, which are conducted in Latin, as we know. He would have had a prayer book, maybe a glossed psalter, something like that. We have these psalters which are in Latin, which are glossed in Old English. So Alfred would have been exposed to and in many ways immersed in Latin. Would he have been able to read Augustine's City of God? Probably not. Would he ever have been able to read that? Probably not. Um, would there have been a moment when somebody was sitting down translating stuff for him that he actually understood what was happening in Latin as they brought it into English? I think so. That he could see Latin grammar, that he could see the vocabulary, and that he could get it. I think that's what's going on. Did he then sit down and translate stuff himself? Probably not. Miraculous stories, I mean, if this is a miraculous story, should be treated with some degree of skepticism when the object of the focus of the story is a highly venerated king. Um, and Asa is writing for the Welsh kings as well. And he's trying to portray, who just recently submitted to Alfred as their overlord, their over king. He's the high king, they're the secondary kings. And he's trying to convince them that this is not humiliating, I think, that Alfred is not like all previous English kings who had encountered, who was just sort of a violent thug. This man is educated, this man is erudite, this man knows how to run a kingdom. It's okay. Yeah, I think that's what he's saying.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that clip, I'll have the link to the rest of the episode in the pinned comments. If you enjoy content about Old English, Latin, historical linguistics in general, be sure to check out the rest of the channel. Until next time, Farathie Isunde.